Hi, I'm Nick, and I like comics.
And I'm Adam, and I know comics.
And I'm Owen, and I like comics.
Owen, we're really glad that you're doing the show with us this week, but that's kind of my line.
I know, but you do realise my channel is called Owen Likes Comics, right? Fine. Well, I'm Owen, and I also like comics.
Welcome to another episode of Imperius Arcs, where we cover story arcs and other comic-related tidbits to better inform and nerdify the world.
Today we will be continuing our series of episodes that take a look at continuity inconsistencies, or things that simply just don't make sense across both the DC and Marvel universes. Owen from Owen Likes Comics is joining us as we chat about and explore time in the Marvel Universe.
Before we get started with the topic at hand, we want to let you know that this episode has absolutely nothing to do with time travel. So we won't be talking about guys like Cable or Kang, though those two are crazily convoluted.
When the Fantastic Four debuted in 1961, Marvel's original timeline was created. It's widely accepted that from Fantastic Four #1 to everything that was written by Marvel through 1967, this all happened in real time. So 6 years had passed from 61 to 67, and therefore in the Marvel Universe, 6 years had also passed.
Along with the Fantastic Four, Peter Parker is a great example to see how real time worked in Marvel Comics in the 1960s. He became Spider-Man in 1962, his sophomore year in high school. He graduated from high school in 1965 and started college in the fall, and somewhere between 65 and 67, Marvel time became a thing. Peter's 4-year Marvel time degree took him about 13 years to achieve. In real time, he graduated in 1978.
The X-Men are another example, with their first comic releasing in 1963. In this issue, we know that Scott Summers, Cyclops, is 17 years old. During the 5th year of the X-Men in 1969, in issue number 54, Cyclops is able to have a drink, therefore he is 21 years old. While this is 2 years into Marvel time instead of real time, if the book were set in 1961 instead of 1963, the timeline still works, which this is a Marvel time theory floating around on the internet.
One of the major problems with real-time comics is characters aging. We know from backstory that both Ben Grimm, The Thing, and Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic were involved in World War II, as seen in Fantastic Four Volume 1, Issue 21. But if Reed and Ben were 18 in 1941, when America joined the Second World War, then that would make them around 38 when Issue 1 of Fantastic Four was published. So the folks over at Marvel invented something called Marvel Time, which allowed their heroes to continue to save the day without aging too much.
So what you might be wondering right now is this. If Marvel Time started somewhere around 1967, then how long has the Marvel Universe actually been around? The answer seems to be about 14 years.
In The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, #1, written in 2014, we learn that Peter was bitten by a radioactive spider 13 years ago, and he's now 28 years of age. So depending on how dates and time actually happens, the Marvel Universe has been around 13 or 14 years. This evens out to about a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning 4 reader years equals about 1 Marvel year.
Now it is important to note that from 1961 to 1967, Marvel wrote their stories in real time. So Peter Parker, who was 15 in 1962, turned 20 in 1967. So if Parker has aged 8 years since 1967, that's more of a 5.5 reader years to 1 Marvel year.
Confused? Well, firstly, I don't blame you, but in 1980, Kitty Pryde made a debut in X-Men issue 129 and was 13 years old. However, when the New Mutants series was released in 1983, it stated that Kitty was only 14 years old. So, literally 3 years later, she'd only aged 1 year. So let's jump ahead to 2002, where Kitty leaves the superhero world to try and be a civilian by going to school at the University of Chicago in the title Mechanics. During this time period, she was a bartender, and what's interesting to note is that Illinois law requires you to be 18 years old to serve alcohol.
How do these numbers work? Well, one blogger by the name of Edward Winterrose proposed Pryde time as figuring out ages in the Marvel Universe with a 3.5 to 1 age ratio. So, in 1980, Kitty is 13. 3.5 reader years later, in 1983, she would be 14, which works with the New Mutant Ages. Also, if you stretch this out in 2002, in real time, Kitty would be about 19, old enough to serve alcohol in the state of Illinois while attending the University of Chicago.
Pryde time as a unit of measure also works with other characters. For instance, Emma Frost states that she is 27 in Grant Morrison's new X-Men run in 2003. So if you take 2003 minus 1980, the year of Emma's first appearance, you get 23. Divide that by 3.5 and you get 6.5. 27 minus 6.5 equals 21 and a half, which would have been Emma's age in 1980.
The Age of Beast, however, might throw a little wrench into this whole thing. In X-Men Volume 2, Issue 20, written in 1993, Hank is freaking out about turning 30, which puts him at 27 years old in 1980. But how old was Beast when he joined the X-Men? By this scale, he would have turned 36 in 2015. 2015 minus 1963 equals 52. 52 divided by 3.5 is 14. And 36 take away 14 is 22. And this would make Beast 5 years older than Scott, who we know was 17 in Classic X-Men number 1.
But then we get back into the real-time versus Marvel time debate from 61 to 67.
Yeah, that's correct.
In addition, Julie Power of the Power Pack made her first appearance in 1984 and is stated as being 10 years old. However, in 2007 with the Loners title, she's actually 17, and therefore her age rate breaks down to around 3.2 reader years to 1 comic book year.
So if it's possible to retroactively turn real-time into Marvel time, the ratio is somewhere between 3 to 1 and 4 to 1 reader years to comic years.
But what happened in 1967 and 68 that shifted the comics from real time to Marvel time? Well, there are a lot of factors that played into that, but overall, the shift seems to center around the sale of Marvel Comics to Martin Ackerman.
Now, we won't go into the huge details here, but the skinny is that Ackerman bought Marvel and he changed the formula of what had made the company so successful in the early 60s in order to try and turn a profit quickly. While characters like The Thing, Spider-Man, Cyclops, and the Hulk are totally fictional and not real in any sense, their stories dealt with things based in reality, stuff like rejection, racism, and responsibility.
After the sale of Marvel Comics to Ackerman, the company continued to write these stories. However, they shifted to more fantastic and otherworldly stories that weren't based so much on reality. Therefore, Marvel time.
Okay, so that might be the real life reason that Marvel Time was started, but I have a different solution. You see, something happened in 1967 that would forever change the Marvel Universe. The birth of Franklin Richards. If you don't know who Franklin Richards is, he's the son of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman. And in a nutshell, he's kind of the most powerful mutant to ever exist, with the psionic abilities, basically that he can do anything with his mind, as well as the powers to manipulate and warp reality. He's aged himself to fight the good fight, de-aged himself when he realised he was too powerful, and blocked in his own mutant abilities. He's also created a pocket universe by just thinking it into existence. He time travels and is literally a living paradox. When his mother Sue had a miscarriage, he made it so his sister Valeria was actually born. He's also made Galactus his herald. There's a theory floating around there that Marvel Time exists because Franklin Richards exists. It seems that Franklin likes things the way they are, and that's why for 50 plus years the Fantastic Four have always come back to the status quo. There were no superhero resurrections until Franklin was born, and it seems that the status quo is upheld because Franklin Richards exists. And with his reality warping powers, he's literally holding the Marvel Universe together.
That might be my favorite theory about anything that I've ever heard, ever.
Hey Owen, thanks for joining us today and chatting about time in the Marvel Universe. Why don't you let people know a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Thanks guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show today, and if you want some more of my stuff, head on over to my channel Owen Likes Comics, where we try and answer some of the most frequently asked questions about the world of comics and use some real life evidence to try and explain them. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, here's a video all about how Deadpool can actually die. So once again, thank you so much for having me on the show, and until next time, take care and keep reading.
Please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Feel free to comment below how you feel about Marvel Time. What's your theory on it? And as always, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, so find us there, especially Twitter.
Yeah. Thanks again to Owen from Owen Likes Comics for joining us and helping us out with this video today. Make sure you hop over to his channel, check out his stuff, and make sure you give him a like and a subscribe as well. And until next time, well, we're going to prove that Marvel Time is a real thing, and in 3.5 videos, Adam is going to have another full beard. I think that might be like reverse Marvel Time, instead of like...
Right.